Good morning, my pre-algebra students. Today we are talking about simplifying algebraic expressions. This is our second lesson in Unit 4, so let's get started. First up, we have some vocabulary words we need to talk about so that you know what we're talking about when we're talking about it. Vocab is good for that. The most general thing we're going to be speaking of is the word term. So a term is a letter or a variable, a number, or a number times a variable. They are separated with addition or subtraction. There's no subtraction here, but you can have subtraction in there, and you're going to see that later in the lesson. There's no division to separate terms, okay? When terms have the same variable, like 3x and x, they are like and can be added or subtracted. Numbers without variables are called constants because they do not vary. By definition, a variable can change. It varies. It changes back and forth depending on what it is. Constants cannot change. 2 is 2 forever and ever and ever. 7 is 7. Same. Does not change. Now, when you have variables that have more than one of them, right? This is 3x. In this case, this is just 1x. But every time you have a variable, it has a coefficient. So what is a coefficient? The coefficient tells you how many of the variable there are. Here there are 3 x's. Here there is no coefficient written, although there is still a coefficient of a 1. This is ax and x. ax. 1x. Okay, it's not written to save time, but it's a 1. So if I were to add 3x plus 1x, it would be 4 x's. If I were to add 7 plus 2, it's 9. So the simplified version of this expression, I don't know why I wrote that, 4x plus 9. Now, you're going to see later, that is the simplified version. You can't add x's and 9s. They're not the same. That's like saying I have 4 apples and 9 oranges. I have 13 apples. No, you have 4 apples and 9 oranges. Okay? They're different types of things. You can't add them together. You can't subtract them. Okay? They're just totally different types of things. First up, down here, we're going to identify like terms in the expression. So you're looking for things that have the same variable. So in this case, you always include the sign before it. So I like to just kind of draw lines after each term. That helps me to see what's what. So this is negative 4x. Any other x's out there? Yep, there's a positive 2x. They're like. Next, I see a positive 2y is like a positive 3y. If it's a plus sign, it's positive. If it's a negative sign, it is, or if it's a subtraction sign, it's negative. So if this were take away 3y, it would be negative 3y. Now, let's look more broadly. Let's look at just the terms. If I'm looking at just the terms, it would be 3n, 5m. That looks like an S, but I promise you it's a 5. Now here, once again, I'm going to put out these lines, these dividers. That's a negative 6m. When you have takeaway or subtraction, you got to treat that number, the term after it, like a negative. That's a positive 2. All right, we already practiced like terms. We're not going to practice that here. Coefficients. Coefficients are the numbers before it, so all the coefficients are 3, 5, and negative 6. What are the constants? Constants are just the numbers without the variable. Here it's 2. Remember, if it were take away 2, it would be negative 2. But in this case, it's plus 2, so it's a positive 2. So we did that. Terms, the coefficients are the numbers before the variables, and the constants are the numbers without the variables. Now, when we put these expressions in simplest forms, we only put the like terms together. Anything else just comes along for the ride. So let's look at a couple examples. First thing I see here is 4x. Any other x's? We have a negative 3x. 4x minus 3x is x, or 1x. Cross them off. Next thing I see is plus 6. There's nothing like it, so we just bring it down here. Over here we have 2m. I'm going to draw lines for this one, since I did that before. 2m minus 7m is negative 5m. Cross them off. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. And you could have written this with plus a negative 1, or you just write it as minus 1. I prefer minus 1. It takes less time. Coming back in part 2 of this video.